Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Skills of Solving Equations, and this is Teacher Nini. So today we are going to learn a very important and foundational skill, which is to move terms in equation. Maybe some of you know how to do it, but why we can do that? I'm going to explain the logic behind today. So first of all, as you can see, there is the equation 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. As what we have learned in school, we know that we need to both minus 1 from both ends of the equation to get rid of the 1. And we have learned that if we do exactly the same thing on both ends of the equation, we wouldn't change the value of the equation, which means that the equation is still valid, right? Okay, all right. And then the next step will be we can cancel out the plus 1 and the minus 1. On the left hand, we only have 2x. And on the right side, we have negative 1. Okay, and we can both divide it by 2 and by 2. So we have x is equal to negative 1 over 2. This is the traditional way that we have learned in school. But today, I'm going to show you the magic. Now, everyone, look at my screen very carefully. I'm going to erase a step. So the step that I'm going to erase is going to be the first step. Okay, guys. So now, as you can see, as we skip the first step, it was there. We just, erase it. Let's observe what is happening here from left side to the right side of the equation. On the left side, we used half plus 1. Is it still there? No, it's not. Where does it go? Oh, it goes to the right side. But is this still plus 1 as it goes to right side? No, it becomes to negative 1. As you can see, guys, this is how we can move the terms as we solve the equation. The motivation why we want to move this term to the other side is because we want to isolate the variables itself. And then as we move the terms from one side to the other side, be careful, even though the digit is the same, but we have to flip the sign from plus to minus or from minus to plus. Okay? All right. So just remember 2 short phrases. Move the terms, but you need to flip the sign. Okay, so probably some of you think, okay, Miss Nini, what if I forget to flip the sign as we move the terms? I'm going to share with you a very quick story as we practice the next question together. Now we have 3x minus 5 is equal to 1. So first of all, we can try to move the terms. But which term do we want to move? Yes, exactly. We want to move the minus 5, right? The reason is because we want to isolate the variable itself on the left side. But as we move it to the right side, are you guys familiar with Mario? So who is the biggest enemy of Mario? It's Bowser, right? So if Mario represents the left side team, as its enemy Bowser is representing the right side team. Okay, as negative 5 betray Mario and join the enemy's team, what will negative 5 do? It changes its mind from minus to plus. Okay, therefore, guys, in future, if you see there is any terms that you need to move, you can just think about this story. Because negative 5 betray its original team. So it has to change his mind into the opposite side, become plus 5. So we have 3x on the left and 6 on the right. And we know that the value for x will equal to 2. Okay, all right. So this is how we can move the terms. And the key thing is don't forget to flip the sign. All right, so now let's get practice together. We want to complete the calculation step. We have 3x plus 5 is equal to 2x minus 1. Remember, our motivation is to isolate the variables on one side of the equation and the other thing on the right side. So let's observe here. Is there any term you want to move? So 3x and 2x are terms with variable. They are not together yet. So we want to move the 2x to the other side first. However, guys, can we do 3x plus 2x? Not really, because 2x join the other team, right? If it join the other team, it has to change the mind from plus 2x to become minus 2x. This step is very, very important, okay? All right, so we have 3x minus 2x plus 5 is equal to -1. Okay, guys, before we move on to the last step, is there any term you also think we need to move around? Very good. You see that on the left side is not a variable itself. It has a +5 here. So actually +5 need to move to the other side. And that will become to what? As we move the +5 to the other side, it will become the opposite sign, which is -5. Okay? All right. So you see, as we move two terms around, we can get 3x minus 2x variables on the left side and the -1, -5 numbers on the right side. And naturally, we can get the final answer, which is written here already, is x is equal to -6. Okay? All right, so hopefully you also got this question correct. So let's just have a quick summary here. Today, we have learned about how to move terms. This is the most important and the foundational skill as you solve the equation. So we know that in school, we have learned as we can do the same thing on both ends of the equation will stay the same. But today, we find a shortcut. As we move the terms, the key thing is that don't forget to flip the sign as the term betray its original team. Okay, so that's gonna be all for today. Thank you so much for watching and good luck with your equation competition. See you, bye!
Hi everyone, this is teacher Tianshi from Think Academy, and today we are going to talk about a very interesting and also important skill for solving equations. And first of all, let me tell you a very interesting joke. So why does teacher Tianshi throw the butter out of the window? And the answer is that because teacher Tianshi wants to see the butterfly. Okay, so actually the skill that we're going to talk about today is also called the butterfly method. And for example, for the butterfly method, we know that if we have a proportional equation, so for example, A divided by B equals to C divided by D. And in that case, we can times least common multiple on both sides of the equation. So we can get A divided by B times BD equals to C divided by D times BD. And then we can do the cancellation. So B and B, they cancel out each other. On the left side, we have AD. And on the right side, we just have BC. And in that case, we can get rid of the annoying fraction and we can get this equation, AD equals to BC. And this is the basic logic for the butterfly method. And here you can see that the cute apple is like doing the butterfly catching. And we know that like the numerator for the left part times the denominator for the right part equals to the numerator for the right part times the denominator for the left part. So basically, if we draw a butterfly around the two fractions, we can get the equation. So AD equals to BC. Okay, so this is a basic logic for the butterfly method, and then we are going to talk about 3 questions related to it. And the first one, so the first one is very easy. We know that 3x divided by 2 equals to 7 divided by 2. And what is the value for x? And we can do it. So the first step is to draw a butterfly around the two equations, right? And we know that 3x times 2 equals to 7 times 2, right? The products of the two like wings for the butterfly should be the same. And then we can cancel out the 2 here, and we know that 3x equals to 7, and the value for x should be 7 divided by 3. Okay, so this is for the first equation. We can just draw a butterfly and do the calculation. And for the second one, so we know that 10 divided by 3 equals to 5x divided by 6, and we can draw a butterfly as well. So 10 times 6 equals to 5x times 3, right? And then let's do the calculation. We can cross cancel the 10 and 5 here, and we only have a 2 here. And then 3 and 6, we have a 2 here. So x equals to 2 times 2, which equals to 4. So x equals to 4 for the second question.
Hi everyone, welcome to Think Academy. This is teacher Zeyin, and today I'm going to teach you guys a very fancy but useful skill of solving the equation. Now let's see. Here, this is a very long equation. If we do this kind of equation with the normal way, like get rid of the parentheses, get rid of the denominator, okay, it will be super time consuming. So at this time, we prefer to use another very faster, very tricky way to do question, right? Okay, if you take a very carefully observation of the equation, you can find out the expression inside of the parentheses. They are all looks like very similar to each other. So for the first parenthesis, we have 2x minus 3. For the second one, there is 3 minus 2x. And for the third one, 3 minus 2x. For the last one, we have 2x minus 3. So if I would like to use a new variable m to represent 2x minus 3. Okay, so 3 minus 2x, actually it's equal to negative m. Okay, if I plug this new variable back into the equation, we have 3m minus 1/3 times negative m equals to 5 times negative m plus 1/2 times m, right? Okay, now let's simplify this. We have 3m minus 1/3 times negative m, it will be positive 1/3 times m equals to negative 5m plus 1/2 times m. Okay, now it's obviously only when m equal to 0, and then the equation will be true, right? So if m equal to 0, okay, so we can find out 2x minus 3 equal to 0. So finally, we can find out x is directly equals to 3/2. Okay, so guys, for this kind of question, if we have a repeated and complicated part in an equation, we can use a new variable to represent this part, and then plug this back into the equation to solve the equation, help us simplify the calculation. Thank you guys. See you next time.
Hi there, welcome here. This is teacher James from Think Academy, and today I'll be teaching you a certain skill for solving equations. The name of the skill is called splitting method. So let's see a certain question first. The question is, what is the value of 1/1 times 2 plus 1/2 times 3? And normally we can just solve the question by calculation. 1/1 times 2 is equal to 1/2. And 1/2 times 3 is equal to 1/6. So we just do 1/2 plus 1/6, and everybody can get the answer. But today, I'll teach you the splitting method. When we got 1/1 times 2, we found that the top number 1 is the difference between 1 and 2, which are the two bottom numbers. So we can change the top number 1 into 2 minus 1 over 1 times 2. And same thing, we can change the 1/2 times 3 into 3 minus 2 over 2 times 3. Since the second one is also the difference between the two bottom numbers, 3 minus 2. And when we do this, 2 minus 1 over 1 times 2 can be split into the first top number 2 over the same bottom number 1 times 2 minus the second top number 1 over the same bottom number 1 times 2. So let's do that. 2 over 1 times 2 minus 1 over 1 times 2. And let's do the same thing for the second fraction. Plus 3 over 2 times 3 minus 2 over 2 times 3. And then everyone, you can then see the 2 and the 2 are cancelled. 1 and 1 are cancelled. 3 and 3 are cancelled. 2 and 2 are cancelled. For each fraction, the top number is cancelled with one of the two bottom numbers. So then we just have first the fraction is turning to 1 over 1, and second fraction is turning to 1 over 2, and the third one is turning to 1 over 2, last one is turning to 1/3. And then you see for the middle fractions, all the middle fractions, we have minus 1 over 2 and a plus 1 over 2. When you subtract the number and add the same number, they are cancelled out. So in the end, we just have what is left. In the end, we have the first one, we have 1 over 1 and minus 1 over 3 left. And that's the only two fractions left, right? So we just have 1 minus 1/3, and it is equal to 2 over 3. Okay. So everyone can see with the splitting method, when you split every single fraction into the difference between two fractions, in the end, all the middle parts can be cancelled out, right? So we only have the first one left and the last one left. And then the calculation will be much easier because you don't have to calculate all the middle part. Only the first fraction and the last fraction should be calculated, right? And be careful, everyone. This is known as the splitting method, and there's a requirement for using the splitting method. We can only use the splitting method when the top number of the fraction is the difference between the two bottom numbers. Say 1 is the difference between 1 and 2. 1 is the difference between 2 and 3. Under this circumstance, we can use the splitting method. Otherwise, we cannot use that. Okay, so let's do a recap, everyone. To use the splitting method, we split each fraction into the difference between two fractions. Thus, all the middle fractions can be cancelled out. And that's how we use the splitting method and how it works. With the splitting method, everyone, let's see one more question. Let's see an equation right over here. Okay, so the equation is x over 3 times 4 plus x over 4 times 5 plus x over 5 times 6 plus x over 6 times 7. That is equal to 4. And we're getting the value for x. And everyone, let's see. If we want to split every single fraction over here, as we said, the requirement is that the top number should be the difference between the two bottom numbers. However, here x is not the difference between 4 and 3. X is not the difference between 5 and 4. And it's neither the difference between 6 and 5 or 7 and 6. All right. But I found that for all of these four fractions, they all have the x as the same factor, as the common factor. So we say whenever we have common factor, we can fact out the common factor and by using the distributive law, right? Since they all have the x as a common factor, we can fact out the x and turn the left side of the equation into x times, in the parentheses, 1 over 3 times 4 plus 1 over 4 times 5 plus 1 over 5 times 6 plus 1 over 6 times 7. And that is equal to 4. So this is a step 1 for the same equation. We fact out the x. Step 2, when you see these four fractions in the parentheses, you'll find we can use the splitting method. Because this time, the 1, it is the difference between 4 and 3. It is the difference between 5 and 4. It is the difference between 6 and 5. And same thing for 7 and 6. So everyone, for the parentheses, we can split that into 1 over the first bottom number minus 1 over the second bottom number. And for the second fraction, all the same. Plus 1 over 4 minus 1 over 5 plus 1 over 5 minus 1 over 6 plus 1 over 6 minus 1 over 7. And that is equal to still 4 on the right side. And as we said, then if you look at the middle parts, you'll find all of the middle fractions can be cancelled out. Here we have minus 1 over 4 plus 1 over 4. And these two, they say bye because they are cancelled out. Minus 1 over 5 plus 1 over 5. Minus 1 over 6 plus 1 over 6. They are all cancelled out all the way except for the first one and the last one. So then the equation is turning to, everyone, step 3. Step 3, we just have x times 1 over 3 minus 1 over 7. That's equal to 4. And the calculation of 1 over 3 minus 1 over 7 is pretty easy. If you calculate that, you'll find that is equal to 4 over 21. 4 over 21 times x is equal to 4. And everybody, you say, what's the value of x? Everyone, x is equal to 21. Okay, so this is how we solve the equation right over here by using the splitting method. Okay, everyone, let's do a quick recap of the splitting method. Whenever we see a fraction and the bottom number are the product of two numbers and the top number is the difference between the two bottom numbers, we can split that fraction into 1 over the first bottom number minus 1 over the second bottom number. Okay, this is the splitting method and we can use it to solve the equation. Okay, that's all for today's question. Thank you so much.